on, guys? It's K-Dub here with another episode of Crypto Zombie. Welcome back to the channel. Hope you're having a wonderful week. It has been a great week for Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. Ethereum specifically doing very, very well as we are leading into the merger. There is a lot of excitement around that. And although, yes, Bitcoin did technically still fall back below 24,000, you could see that the structure that we are building is still higher highs and higher lows. Now, yesterday's candle, I'm not going to lie, was a little bit ugly. You could see right here, there's this giant wick to the top, which shows that as soon as we got above this, level that we were looking at, there was a lot of sell pressure. So big question is, are the markets potentially overheated right now? Have we had a little bit too much of a rally? Should we expect a bit of a pullback? Well, I'm going to let you know exactly what I think about that, whether or not it's dangerous or not to be buying at these levels if it is just a fake out. And I also do want to talk about the ETH merger. There is a lot of excitement around this ETH 2.0 and the fact that it's moving to proof of stake. You've seen Ethereum essentially leading the markets, but is it going to be a buy the rumor, sell the news event? Should we steer clear from it, or is it time to go all in on Ethereum? Big question on a lot of people's minds right now. I also want to talk about one thing that's a little bit scary that was sort of figured out in regards to the Bitcoin Lightning Network. Maybe it might not concern you, but it is something that we do need to pay attention to. I also want to talk about something overall that could be potentially worrisome just for the global economy, specifically the United States. But finally, and make sure you stick around all the way to the end of this video. So this BlackRock news just keeps getting crazier and crazier. First, we have them partnering with Coinbase. Then we have the private trust. And now we have another piece of news, which could potentially be even crazier than the previous two. So if you are interested in that, stick around to the end. And of course, we are going to go over our short-term trades and opportunities. Okay, guys? So if you like that kind of content, smash the like. If you're new around here, get subscribed. We make these videos almost every day, or at least when there's something worth talking about. And without further ado, let's dive in and have a look at what Bitcoin is doing. So as I did say yesterday, we did actually get back above these two previous sloping trends, right? We came up here, we dipped below it just a little bit, and we have confirmed 3 candles above it. Although this was quite an ugly candle, it probably was just simply because, we were getting to these very important levels. Now, a lot of people are saying, oh, you've turned into a moon boy, right? Well, look, guys, I'm always bullish on Bitcoin, but you have to admit that when we came down to these levels right here, that's when I said, okay, we're a little bit oversold. We have all these bottom indicators flashing. It is time for minimally a relief rally. Now, as you can see right here, we are still in a clear downtrend. We have not broken into full-on bull run mode just yet, but if you do want to come from the bottom, right, from this wick, all the way to where we are right now, we've seen a 35% increase, 41% at the high, and yes, this is exactly where we would expect to see that resistance, right? We have this wick right here from, this is the 3-day chart, but essentially it was the 3 days starting on May 10th where we had that Terra Luna wick. You could see right when we fell through that area, boom, that was a massive cascade, and I do believe that this was in fact the bottom, or we are very, 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 very close to the bottom, given the indicators that we've seen. But nevertheless, let's talk about the good news. The good news is that we did have this previous downward sloping trend line, the heart line of the downwards trend. We are finding support on that. And as expected, we are seeing a little bit resistance in our blue zone. This is nothing really out of the ordinary. Same thing is happening over here on the CME futures, right? We knew that we were going to have a little bit of resistance here with our target levels upwards to around $28,800. And I still think Bitcoin is going to get to those levels, even if we have a pullback in the next, couple days or even week, right? Because we have had a major rally, right? So it wouldn't be impossible if Bitcoin came down, but essentially what you don't want to do is you really don't want to pivot any lower than right here, right? You can come down here, maybe right here, we catch this area right around 21,000, that would be fine. You just don't want to really fall below here because then you're breaking the structure of putting in higher lows, right? But ultimately, I think that Bitcoin still looks very healthy. I think there's a lot of positivity around it. And I just want to let you guys know, as far as this pattern is concerned, we only have 3 more days to stay within this range. range, you could see we broke out of this. It is an ascending triangle. Ascending triangles are bullish patterns, the same way that this ascending triangle right here was bullish, and we broke out. This is also bullish as well. We attempted the breakouts on several occasions, but we did the same thing back here, right? There's always those fake outs. They catch traders off guard. It's just how the markets work. Now, the only thing that I will say about this is if we do end up having the eventual breakout, and if you want to take the retest on the trade, that's around $22,400. So if we see Bitcoin retesting around that area, even $22,000 even, I do think we will still continue to break to the upside. But right around this area, the ultimate 26,621 short term, I think that the whales will take advantage of that exuberance. I think what will happen is people will get excited and, they do sell into strength, right? Whales or, big players, smart money, they sell into strength. They buy into weakness. So if everybody's getting excited and the price is really strong and Bitcoin's making 10% moves, they're going to take that opportunity to sell into it, potentially even to short back, not in a bad way. I believe they would be doing this to accumulate more Bitcoin because Bitcoin is catching on and the BlackRock news is shattering right now the news. And there's even bigger news if you stick around for that. But ultimately, as I said, if you want to play the breakout move, which we did not get the confirmed breakout move, it would be a retest of around 24,040 with a continuation. If not, then the next level that I'd be looking at would be around 22,461 with the next accumulation at around 22,000 even. If you do want to learn how to trade, I recommend BitGet. It is US friendly, 20 Bitcoin daily withdrawal. It's extremely easy to use, very quick and easy, lots of liquidity. And of course, if you guys do want those extra bonuses, $6,888. Use the link below and check that out above if you want to learn how to trade. Now, let's talk about the positives. Lots of bottom indicators. We have not seen this flash yet on the miners capitulation. Make sure you get subscribed to the channel because as soon as I do, I will drop it, even if it's in a YouTube short. I did my first YouTube short ever yesterday. Didn't really get a lot of views, but some people liked it. It was just a quick 60-second update, so make sure you have those alerts turned on. I'm going to start doing those. That way we don't have to make these 20-minute videos all the time. Maybe there's only something 30 seconds of news, right? That way you can just catch it nice and quick. So you do want to have those notifications turned on. But right here, ultimately the monthly RSI still not really doing much. It's kind of curving up. It's starting to flatten out. We're looking for it to get around 50. It's still around 44.3. And you can see right here, once again, being rejected by this EMA ribbon. So that is still something a little bit concerning we haven't seen yet. Now, I know what you might be saying. Well, look at the DXY. It broke the parabolic curve, but now we're seeing it break back above this 50 moving average, right? And we do consider this to be, a very important moving average. Generally, when it's above it, it's usually bullish, right? We do have these little traps down here once in a while, which could be what's happening right now. But do we want the DXY to be bullish is the question, because if the DXY is starting to continue on or continuing on its bull trend, then wouldn't that be bad for things like Bitcoin and risk assets? Well, number one, I don't believe that the dollar is as strong as everyone thinks it is. And number two, I do believe that we have fallen out of this trend. And I think that this is now, as you guys can see right here, until we can break this, look what we're doing. Look at this. We're actually starting to now have resistance, and possibly resistance again on the dollar. But I do want to turn it over to Mark Yusko. He was over talking with Matt Maul and Stansberry Research, and he was discussing the crypto winter, but also the fact that the dollar has been in this bull run. But he says that it could potentially all be an illusion, and he also gives his outlook on Bitcoin as well.
And in 248 years of the Republic, okay, half of all the dollars that have ever existed were created in the last 2 years. So the value of that dollar keeps going, oh, Mark, no, the dollar's going up. DXY is strong. No. DXY is up because the yen and the euro are crashing harder than the dollar. It's like the old joke about you're in the forest with the friend and, the bear comes out and the guy sits down to put on his tennis shoes and says, what are you doing? You can't outrun a bear. I don't have to outrun the bear. I just have to outrun you. Yeah. So that's where we are, is the dollar is weakening, but it's not weakening as fast as the other major currencies. But if you look at it relative to Bitcoin, over the last 2 years, Bitcoin is up 100%. Exactly what you'd expect if you increase the money supply by 50%. If you increase by 100%, so you decrease the value by 50%. That makes sense. Okay, but Bitcoin's down since November. Well, of course it is. Everything's down since November. because we had these massive liquidations of over-leveraged speculation. And when you get a margin call, here's the tricky thing. You don't get to sell what you want to sell, right? Peloton, you bought it on margin, it went down 90%. You can't sell Peloton to make the margin call. You got to sell gold, you got to sell bonds, you got to sell Bitcoin. So the things that didn't go down then suddenly go down. So now everything's going down, correlations go up, but that's a temporal thing. Now correlations are reversing again. Friday was a great example. Markets were down, Bitcoin's up. Bitcoin's up a lot since mid-June. That's when I will say was the bottom, 17.5 candle that day. And we made a series of higher lows and higher highs. And I think crypto spring is here. Now we're still a ways from crypto summer when we get another parabolic move up, but that'll come probably in 6-9 months.
So sure, the dollar looks good, but really it's only because it is the worst of the other evils, right? You know what I'm trying to say? So shout out to Mark Yusko for that. Actually, I do have another clip from him coming up later, but I wanted to bring even crazier news from BlackRock. So we've already talked about Coinbase. We've already talked about them allowing, customers to get exposure to spot Bitcoin. Although really, is it synthetic or not? I mean, we need a little bit more detail on that. If it is a trust, it's not really a true Bitcoin ETF, which is why they're not calling it that. But nevertheless, I still believe it is a step in the right direction. And, actually in yesterday's video, some of you had a really good point. Isn't that kind of against the point of Bitcoin? I totally agree. I'm all for self-custody, and all these other things. But understand that there's a lot of people that aren't going to want to be their own bank. They aren't going to want to take their own responsibility. So, what they're doing right here with BlackRock is essentially more of, it's like a gateway drug, right? It gets you into it. You dip your toes in the water, and then eventually, hopefully, you learn more, and you end up putting your crypto on, cold storage. That is the ultimate goal, but inevitably, some people are lazy. So I digress from that. So here is the big news, guys. Eric Van Nostrand, he's a BlackRock managing director who was head of research for sustainable investments and multi-asset strategies, is now exiting. But he's going to join the U.S. Treasury Department. He's going to be a senior advisor on economic issues tied to Russia and Ukraine and will report to Ben Harris, Assistant Secretary of Treasury for Economic Policy. So Larry Fink's they say 8.5 trillion investing giant, although some estimate it to be close to 9, has been gaining clout in Washington as the Biden administration has stocked its ranks with ex-BlackRock executives. That means that the company is now seen as one of Wall Street's key conduits to the power center in Washington. So if the Biden administration is considering these guys such an important key asset or conduit, as they put it, and now they're saying that they're seeing demand in Bitcoin, they're looking to help get their clients exposure, could this mean that the U.S. could potentially start to lead the way in Bitcoin adoption? And that's not even where it ends. You have Brian Deese, the former head of sustainability at BlackRock. He's currently running the National Economic Council, and Mike Pyle, BlackRock's former chief investment strategist, has joined the administration to serve as Kamala Harris's chief economic advisor. What is happening right now? Now, obviously, there could be a lot of conspiracies about, who's in bed with who and what they're doing in the background. But ultimately, if you read between the lines, I think that this is very bullish for Bitcoin. Whether we have a little bit of a correction, right? Because we did have a big move, right? We have had a nice move off the bottom. It would not be impossible to see that move. And I just tweeted this over on Twitter. Look at how the tides are changing. In 2017, BlackRock CEO Larry Fink calls Bitcoin an index of money laundering. 2021, why BlackRock is bullish on blockchain, but not Bitcoin. And then, of course, BlackRock picks Coinbase to provide clients with direct Bitcoin exposure, right? So if you can't beat them, join them. Isn't that how it goes? Look at the Wolf of Wall Street, Jordan Belfort, right? He called Bitcoin a total scam. He wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole. And look at him now. He's running around telling everybody to buy it. Eventually, everybody ends up seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. And that is Bitcoin, my friends. Now, there's a little bit more than just Bitcoin to talk about today. Let's talk about the total crypto cap, which looks like it is having a nice trajectory to the upside. If we could break this green dotted line here, that would be like the ultimate bullish thing. Right now, we're just starting to break the first line. But talking about this excitement, this exuberance happening right now over Ethereum, look at the Bitcoin dominance. And I told you that if we fell below this line, and it doesn't look like it's doing much right now on the weekly chart, but you have to understand that Bitcoin being the big dog, losing just 1% 1% or 2% or 3% or 5% is actually pretty significant when it gets distributed to the altcoins, specifically Ethereum. Obviously, lower cap coins can go a lot higher. But look at this, guys. I told you, and we were paying attention to this, and I knew it was time to start going heavier into Ethereum and longing Ethereum, not just around the excitement, but the technicals were showing us that Ethereum was looking to flip this, long-term Bitcoin trend line. And what did we do? We consolidated, and finally, boom, blast off. Now, Ethereum is on its way to potentially hitting its previous Bitcoin all-time high. It has a long way to go. It has to get around that 0.1 area, but currently we're sitting at around 0.08, so we only have 0.02 more to go before Ethereum reaches its new all-time highs in comparison to Bitcoin, right? Not dollars, but hey, if you're holding crypto and you want to outpace, what you want to do is find something that can outpace Bitcoin. Now, sure, altcoins can outpace Bitcoin short term, but long term, a lot of them end up losing their value and they become just total zombie stocks, zombie cryptos, and nobody touches them again and they never reach their new all-time highs. Ethereum looks like it could be on its way to do that. Like Altcoin Daily pointed out, look at the searches for ETH Merge. They're absolutely exploding. They're at an all-time high. And we know that a lot of people are excited about this because it's confirmed that it's supposed to be moving to proof of stake on September 19th. And they've already had their, and I don't know how to say this, I've never heard it said out loud, Jorly testnet on Thursday. That was successful. So they only have 2 more steps, which is Bellatrix and Paris, and the Bellatrix upgrade is expected to take place on September 6th. So what could potentially happen for Ethereum? Well, I could give you my opinion on it, obviously. Do I think it'll be a buy the rumor, sell the news event? I think it could be, potentially, but I think that right now, as far as allocating capital goes, even if you consider buying Ethereum at $2,000, right? Compared to what Ethereum is going to do in the next bull run, and considering all these upgrades that are coming to it, it's probably going to actually outpace Bitcoin, and you can even see massive returns even from buying at these levels right now. We've seen how these bull runs can get, but short term, so you had BitMEX co-founder Arthur Hayes talking about Ethereum in a curious situation called backwardation, where Ethereum's spot price is actually higher than what it's trading for in the future market. So he says that his guess is that traders are hedging out of ETH exposure pre-merge just in case. Also, another thing that some people are complaining about is that if you are staking ETH, once they do switch, you won't be able to get that Ethereum back for potentially 6 months to a year. And then there's going to be some kind of like queue system put into that. Look into that if you are staking ETH. I'm not going to go into that in this video, but just talking about the price alone. He says if the marginal pressure is on the sell side, then the market makers are long futures and must short sell spot to hedge themselves. This adds downward price pressure to the cash or spot market, right? So that would be the worst case scenario. But he says, what happens if the merge is successful? And hedgers cover their shorts, so they are net long ETH again. And what if speculators who believe in a triple halving YOLO into leverage long positions? Now, the pressure is on the buy side, and market makers are short futures and must go long spot. A reversal of their positioning pre-merge. If you believe that the merge is going to succeed, then this is yet another positive structural reason why ETH could gap higher in the end of the year. And I do think personally, this is what Arthur Hayes said. If you want my opinion, I think even if it is a small sell the news event, the day of, we do see the price fall, I still think it's a trap. And I do think Ethereum is going to continue higher over the next I can't say decade, but over the next few years for sure, at least over the next cycle. And to be honest, as someone who actually owns more Bitcoin than Ethereum, I think Ethereum could outpace Bitcoin. And I know, that sounds crazy. You're like, well, if you're so confident, why are you holding more Bitcoin? Well, it's just a risk thing, right? I'm not worried about Bitcoin. Bitcoin isn't going anywhere. It does what it does, and it does it well. Ethereum, on the other hand, there is a lot of uncertainty, right? It does a lot of things. It does way more things than Bitcoin, which is why ETH maxis and Bitcoin maxis fight. I'm neither of those. I think that both of these protocols can live together in harmony because they serve different purposes. But Ethereum has a lot more that could potentially go wrong in the future, whereas Bitcoin, because it is so simple, pretty much you get what you get, right? We know what it does. So nevertheless, that's my take on it. Let me know what you guys think about that. But look, there was something, getting back to what, Mark Yusko said. Let's just say, is there a chance that, all of this fails and there really is a big problem with the economy and we are all being fooled right now and there won't be any, major rally and we are going to keep going lower? Well, there is that possibility. And, I do want to play this clip because he said, this could happen. There are these cycles. These are possibilities. So it's always good to look at, both sides of the coin, pun intended.
It's the one thing that just keep me up. I sleep really well. People say, what keeps you up at night? Nothing. I sleep really, really well. I'm blessed. And but the one thing that I do think about is there's a 90-year cycle in the world. And that 90-year cycle has been going on for millennia. And it's driven by, again, generations of humans. That's 3 generations, 30 years. And each generation, it's like this book, The Fourth Turning, talks about these. Each generation of people has a different look and feel. And there's a reason. It's kind of like when you have an only child or 2 kids or 3 kids, people say, why aren't they more the same? How could they ever be the same? One has no siblings, one has 1 sibling, one has 2 siblings. They need to be very different. And so generations are different. And there's a really conservative generation, then there's a really aggressive generation, then there's the hippie generation, and it just cycles repeat. But in that 90-year cycle, there's a depression. And there was a depression in 1840, there's a depression in 1930, and here we are in 2020 something, and depressions are caused by bad government policies. And bad government policies are usually inflicted by people who shouldn't be, back what we were talking about before, old people who overstay their welcome in office, who aren't in touch with the changes in the environment. And, you think about, you go back and look at the pictures of the, politicians making decisions like Smoot and Hawley. They were fighting the last war. And it's like the story of Singapore, right? Singapore is an isthmus, and they built these big guns on the end of the isthmus, and they pointed them out at sea because they were worried about the Japanese coming in. They thought they'd blow them out of the water. Well, the Japanese were not dummies. They saw the guns, pulled the ships over, and hiked up over the mountains and came in the back way and conquered Singapore. So the guns were pointed the wrong way, and you couldn't turn them around. So the same thing is true here, is using tariffs in a world where it's not about made in China anymore. 20 years ago, all about made in China, right? My friend's daughter came to him and said, Daddy, I thought you said Santa Claus brings the presents. Well, he does, honey. Why? Why do they all say made in China? Yeah, 20 years ago, it was about made in China. Today, it's about made for China. China is the largest consumer market in the world, 700 million middle class. Think about that. Bigger than the US and Europe put together. Population, That's their middle class. Then they got another, super class and lower class, but 700 million middle class. And that is the greatest consumptive force this world has ever seen. So now it's not like Russia. Everyone's looking at Russia. Why aren't the sanctions working against Russia? Because Russians are selling stuff to China, like lots of it. And they're denominating it in their own currencies as opposed to the dollar. So US dollar hegemony is falling. So there's this natural progression that happens, and it's policy decisions. And I fear that the policy leaders we have in place today are making the same mistakes. And so I do worry that this garden variety recession we're in, which is more like an 01 kind of shallow recession, no big deal, could turn into a 30s or 1840s style depression. I'm not wishing for that. I'm not predicting that. But I am saying if you continue down the path of over tightening, right? The Fed, bad decision. You're restricting liquidity at the government level, passing bills to throttle innovation and wealth creation, right? Why would you do that? Why would you ever pass a bill that decreases the incentive to innovate and create income and wealth? Why would you want to tax that? It's completely illogical, right? Why would you ever want to discourage people becoming wealthy? You should never want to, because those people create lots of jobs. That's where all the jobs come from. And so if we want to succeed societally, what we want to do is encourage innovation, encourage business formation, not discourage like this nonsense they just passed over the weekend. So I do worry that we're in a really bad place.
And obviously, that situation is a possibility, and I don't want to spread FUD on the channel, but you just have to be realistic, and not to spread FUD, but this article did come out. It was a little concerning. So you had some researchers at the University of Illinois discovering vulnerabilities in the Bitcoin Lightning Network that could result in a theft of 750 Bitcoin, or roughly 18 million. Now keep in mind, this is not the Bitcoin network. The Bitcoin network is fine. It's running all right. This is the Lightning Network. This is a second layer, and this is something that is a lot more really centralized, if you want to be honest about it. So a coalition of about 30 nodes could lock the funds of around 31% of the channels for about 2 months via a zombie attack. According to them, a zombie attack is a form of vandalism that congests the network and makes the Lightning Network unusable. It's a scenario where some nodes are unresponsive, thereby locking funds connected to these nodes. So the report said that the only way to defend against this attack would be for honest nodes to close their channel and return to the Bitcoin Layer 1 network, but that would cost a lot in transaction fees. So I hope that they fix this. I hope this isn't anything serious, but just again, not to give that, warning, not to preach, but, Lightning Network, it's just an option that you can use to get your Bitcoin from one place to another place essentially instantly, right? It is like a glorified bar tab. That's basically what it is, right? Let's be honest. So the same way that you shouldn't be leaving your coins on exchanges, you shouldn't be leaving your coins on the Lightning Network, right? Treat the Lightning Network the same way that you would if you were going out and you had cash in your wallet. You're not going to put all the cash that you have you're not going to put every single thing in your bank account and just put it in your wallet in cash and walk around at night. No, but you might have a couple $100 in there, right? And then, hey, if something happens, if you do lose it, no big deal, but at least you have that quick cash to do the transaction. That's really how I see the Lightning Network. But nevertheless, guys, I do hope that they fix this, because this is not a cool thing to be having right now, right? So that is it for me today, guys. Thank you so much for coming back to the channel. Nevertheless, the bottom signals are flashing. I do still believe personally that we could have already seen the worst, that inflation may have, at least short-term peaked. And I do think that the worst part of the bear market is over. That's my opinion, though. Let me know what you guys think. Maybe you're one of those people that are just begging and hoping and believing in the fact that Bitcoin's going to go to 15, 10, 12, 6. I'm not in that camp particularly. I do think that we have seen the bottom, or at least we've seen something relatively close. There's always the option of a double bottom. Double bottoms are very common. So if we came down here to that 17.5, there's a potential chance that, we do the double bottom. We come up, we come down one more time. I've seen that tons and tons and tons and tons of times. In fact, if you look right here, kind of had a little bit of a double bottom right here, before we had that move to the upside, and that put in a lower low, right? But it was still a bullish move overall. So nevertheless, guys, that is it for me. Thank you so much. And again, if you do want to get this market cipher indicator, I do have a link below in the description. Remember, it's not a free indicator. Almost every indicator I use on this channel is a free indicator. This is not a free indicator. It's very complex, but at the same time, also really good for beginners if you are trading. So check that out below. That is it for me today, guys. Thank you so much for coming back to the channel. If you didn't check out my first YouTube short, I think I'll be doing a few more of those little quick updates. Make sure you have the notifications turned on if you want to get those. I'm just going to be making them throughout the day. They might come out at any time. I don't know. I have no real specific time frame for that. So thank you so much for coming back to the channel. You guys rock. You're the reason that I make these videos. And before you go, if you want to learn how to trade profitably and responsibly, make sure that you check this popping up right here, right now. Take your finger, click it, check it out. Until next time, stay crypto. My name's K-Dub, and of course, peace out.